Good morning and welcome to the pre-proposal conference of RFP 56 FY23 for healthcare services for Arlington Public Schools. I am Hamid Hamidi and I am the Senior Procurement Specialist for Arlington Public Schools. Also representing APS during the conference are Brianna Covens, the Executive Director of Office of Human Resource Operations, and also the APS Project Manager for this project. David Webb, Director of Procurement, Shatia Moore, Benefit Supervisor, Rebecca Hoffman, Procurement Analyst. Also representing Conferry during the meeting are Daniel Lowe, Principal of Reward and Benefits, Stephen Capper, Associate Client Partners, and Ryan Olson, Senior Principal. During the conference, the RFP will be reviewed, questions are welcome and will need to be submitted in writing through the Q&A capability. Questions will be addressed at the end of the conference. It needs to be emphasized that even though this conference is provided to help offerers gain a better understanding of this requirement, it remains the offerer's responsibility to be familiar with the contents of the RFP and know what information is required to be included in a proposal submitted in response to this RFP. I would like to thank those attending for your interest in this APS requirement. And with that, I will now turn it over to Rebecca to review the RFP.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I know some of you are on the West Coast. It's a little early, but thank you. As Hamed mentioned, this is for a request for proposal for 5623 healthcare services for Arlington Public Schools. The proposal is due on January 20th, 2023. Proposals will be submitted through our secure cloud-based file sharing platform, also known as a platform. They are not to be received by mail or in person. For the proposal to be considered for award, it must be received in the platform no later than 11:59 p.m. on Friday, January 20th, 2023. I'm sorry. Offerers are strongly encouraged to submit their proposal before the proposal due date. And we will get to later, we have screenshots that are provided to show you step-by-step how to submit. That will be in Appendix I. Not my intention to read absolutely everything in this to you, just kind of to point out and highlight what we feel is very important. We want to make sure that it is not overlooked. The proposal received after the due date will not be considered. And we want you to be aware that you will not get an automatic confirmation through the platform. But if you would like to contact me by email or phone and request whether there confirmation that your bid has been received, I'd ask that you don't phone me at midnight, please, but try to keep that to working hours. But you're more than welcome to contact, and we can let you know that confirm that your proposal has been received. Any questions regarding those? The RFP should be submitted in writing to me. They can be copied as well to the other staff listed there, but responses will be provided by me. We will be taking questions at the end of this presentation. I want to point out the addenda, very important. We will be issuing at least one addendum next week. You need to provide confirmation acknowledgement that you have seen, received, and understand that addendum. And that would be, you can fill this in on this page. These first pages we're going through are required submissions. And so we want you to be sure to check that. The next page, the State Corporation Commission, please be sure that you do have that ID number. It is a mandatory requirement for APS. We're going to skip down to the special provisions, which are on page 8. And then the general requirements or general information to tell you specifically about this are we're looking for proposals for qualified offers to provide group medical coverage through both a self-insured PPO plan and a fully insured HMO plan or self-insured EPO. Also, prescription drug coverage, vision coverage, an on-site nurse practitioner, an employee assistance program, and administration of flexible spending accounts to include healthcare, dependent care, parking, transit, and the administration of COBRA. We're looking for a single contractor to provide all these services as are more fully described in the scope of services below. Offerors should only submit a proposal if you are able to provide all of the services described. Separate awards for any of the services will not be considered. An offeror submitting the proposal must provide at a minimum all of the requirements of the medical and prescription drug coverage services. But it's acceptable for that offeror to submit a proposal where they have subcontractors providing any or all of the requirements for vision, the EAP, the on-site nurse practitioner, FSA, and COBRA services. I want to point out, though, where subcontractors provide these services, the contractor awarded this shall remain responsible for oversight of all aspects of plan administration. If there's still questions about that at the end, I'll be happy to clarify that again. There's background information listed. I won't go through that. And on the scope of services, I'm going to turn that over to our consultant, Mr. Dan Lowe.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Lowe with Korn Ferry, consultant on this RFP process. And I'll walk through, not in heavy detail, like Rebecca said, we're not going to read every little line here, but please make sure to review the scope of services in detail to make sure that you can provide all of the services listed. It's important to reiterate that only offerors who can provide the complete scope of services as listed below will be considered. So the first item is the group medical plan. So it will be decided during the RFP process. We'll be considering self-insured PPO alongside a fully insured HMO or a self-insured PPO alongside a self-insured EPO. And then all of the items below, please review in detail when you are going through this. Secondly, offers will provide prescription drug coverage and all the administration thereof. You can keep going, Hamed. Third is vision coverage. After vision, go up one. An on-site nurse practitioner. An on-site nurse practitioner is not something that Arlington Public Schools currently has, but we will be exploring that option through this RFP process. And there will be a portion in the Appendix J questionnaire to cover each of these items, including the on-site nurse practitioner. Fifth is going to be an employee assistance program. And then I think the last item will be the administration of the flexible spending account and COBRA. And then Rebecca, I'll hand it back to you to walk through the schedule.
Thanks. We are trying and our intention to keep to this schedule. Next week, the question deadline is December 12th. An information item will be issued shortly after that. Addendum item will also be issued. We're hoping next week, because as we get into this, you will see that we do have some appendices that we need to still get out there. And so our intention is to have those out next week as well. With the proposal due date, as we discussed earlier, it's January 20th, and proposals being submitted through the platform. I'm going to skip down to number 9, the insurance requirements. If each offeror must review the insurance requirements sections carefully with its insurance agent or broker prior to submitting a proposal to ensure they can provide the specific coverage requirements and limits applicable to the solicitation. If you have questions about that, please submit them in advance, and we can try to address what your concerns are. There is a checklist that can be found in Appendix D. These are also more fully outlined in our contracts, terms and conditions, section 49. think I'm not going to go through most of these instructions. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, and we will jump to the proposal requirements. The electronic copy of the proposal to include all documents identified below under format and content, and those are submitted through the platform. Proposals should be submitted with the required information in the order listed below. Modifications or additions of any portion or terms of the RFP by the offeror may be cause for rejection of the proposal. However, APS reserves the right to decide on a case-by-case basis in its sole discretion whether or not to reject such a proposal as non-responsive. Those modifications and should be listed in your tab 6, which would be exceptions. We'll get down to that in a minute. And that's if you wish to consider changes to the APS documents, they must be submitted in writing in the proposal. Exceptions could be considered during negotiation. We want them put in the proposal, and so that they're up front, and then they can possibly, we don't want them suddenly surprise new ones brought in at negotiations. These need to be put in your proposal in the proper tab 6. Okay. Submission of trade secrets or proprietary information, those would go under tab 5 of the proposal. E, format and content, this is what was discussed, and this is the organization we want these submitted. Tab 1 is administration. Those are the pages that we discussed at the beginning, the title pages 1 through 5. In appendices that we'll see here at the end that are standard to any of our contracts. Tab 2, executive summary. That's pretty explanatory. Tab 3, technical proposal. The offeror shall complete the following tabs included in Appendix J questionnaire and submit into tab 3 the technical proposal. I think, Hamed, did you want to put up technical, propose the Appendix J so we can see what that is? This, you'll see all the tabs that are listed there at the bottom. Each open and complete each of those. It goes up through tab 9, and when we get to tab 10, I'm going to hand that over to Dan.
Yeah, so this is Rebecca mentioned before. There are some pieces of the requests that have not been made available yet. That's because we are toward the end of the process of working through NDAs with the incumbent vendors. So you will receive these. We're anticipating by next week, and those are the medical provider disruptions. So you'll get a list of facilities and providers used by Arlington Public Schools, and you can indicate whether or not they're in your network. There will be an RX request, and part of that request will be to provide formulary information and pharmacy network information. And then the last portion will be a vision request that will, again, list vision providers that have been used by Arlington Public Schools in the last year, and you'll be able to indicate whether they're in or out of network.
Hamed's showing you the required documents checklist. That's not required to submit into your technical proposal. It's provided there for assistance and helping you corral some of the documents and making sure that that you've got what is needed. So we will go back to the RFP and the cost proposal. That's it's also titled Appendix J, but it says questionnaire pricing supplement, an Excel spreadsheet to be completed. So and the information that's already completed in there is data on employees, current employees. Okay, tab 5, trade secrets and proprietary information. I think that's explanatory. Tab 6 and 7. 6, I want to especially point out, as we just discussed, if there are any exceptions that you want to take, please be specific about what exceptions. If you're proposing something different, please provide that information within this tab 6, very important. And tab 7 for any industry standard documentation that should be considered within this proposal. So I'm going to go to the proposal evaluation. Actually, I'm going to skip to that. Well, the second paragraph there that starts with the offers, it follows up on that. Any exceptions to the provision of the contract documents, provide them in writing in this proposal as part of tab 6. So, so we can go to the next page. Ahmed, it's just the second paragraph there. Yeah, that's good. That's great. Offerers shall be deemed to have waived all objections to and accepted all provisions in the contract documents to which no exception is included in its submitted proposal. So if there's something, please provide us specifics on what you need to take exception to. I'm going to jump to the top there. The evaluation process is through a selection advisory committee, which reviews and evaluates all the responsive proposals. The SAC relies on information contained in the proposals, so be sure that it is a comprehensive and everything is included in that. They will use that to determine the fully qualified and best suited among the proposals. They will be using the proposal criteria, which is on the next page. Our proposal evaluation, can we go to the next page there, Hamed? Our evaluation process is in 3 stages. This initial evaluations criteria. Please be sure that the information that is provided in your proposal identifies and makes clear how each of these criteria are met. You can see the weighting that's given to each of those criterion. After the initial evaluations, we do not notify those who are not invited to the shortlist interview. Shortlist, those that meet are the top offerers will be invited to shortlist interviews. So we're trying to keep to the schedule that's on the page that we will be getting those. If you look at our proposed schedule and you have not received notification, it's you can assume that you have not been selected to move on to the shortlist interviews. Again, we do not notify those offerers who are not invited to the next stage. After our shortlist interviews, and you can see that the criterion weighting varies slightly. Then for the negotiation stage, we also have different weighting for the criteria and different criteria. So those will change as we go through each of the steps. Okay, I'm just going to briefly show just each of these. This Appendix A, this is one of the documents that would be included in your tab 1. Same with Appendix B. These are all mandatory and must be completed. Appendix C. Appendix D, I'll just point out here briefly, again, this is your insurance checklist. This is required to be submitted, and there's information on that and the terms and conditions as well. Appendix E, business associate agreement, required to be signed and submitted. Appendix F is our sample form agreement. I want to just point that out because this is how, when a contract is awarded, this is, it's page 41, Hamed. This is the format that it will take, and these are the documents that will be 41. We're going backwards, Hamed. Page 41. There we go. Thank you. And so please check this out. As I said, this is will list what information and how that we format our final contract. Okay, we can skip to Appendix G on page 45, which is our terms and conditions. I just want to point out that the contract, this wording in our contract terms and conditions is approved by our APS attorney. And these are, if these are not acceptable, well, let me read paragraph here. G. A contract with a successful offeror shall contain the following contract terms and conditions with complete information to be added based upon the final negotiations between APS and the successful offeror. Offerors who propose to use additional or modified language must include such language with their proposal. Arlington Schools is referred to as APS. Non-negotiable mandatory provisions are indicated with an asterisk. And then the final agreement is subject to review by the APS attorney. So these contract terms and conditions need to be reviewed. And if you have exceptions to them, you need to include that in the tab, the appropriate tab. That has to come in with your proposal. It's not something that we would look at afterwards. Okay, G. Okay. Appendix H is our sample purchase order. It's kind of an information, it's on page 66, kind of an information item so that you can see what our proposals, sample purchase order, there we go. Then the next 3 or 4 pages, Appendix I have referred to earlier, those are screenshots of the steps that are required to submit a proposal. And then we'll look at these pages, each one. Appendix J. We just talked about Appendix J. There's Appendix J, the questionnaire, and Appendix J, the pricing supplement. Those are included separately. Appendix K is an attachment. It's for information purposes only. It does not need to be returned. Appendix L is an attachment for information only. Then the Appendix M, Dan had just talked about, that will be provided in an addendum. It does need to be completed and returned. The same is true for Appendix N. It will be provided in the addendum. It needs to be completed and returned. And the same for Appendix O. Will be included in the addendum, needs to be completed, returned. The next ones, P, Q, R, S, T, U. Those are all information that is included just as an attachment for information purposes only. So all of those can be found in the same at our APS website or the state website where you located the RFP itself. Those attachments are available there. So at this time, we will open it for questions. Okay, I will start. I think there was a question about those who cannot attend the pre-proposal conference. This has been recorded and it will be available, a link on our website. Looks like we may have a question.
That may have been Ryan rejoining the call. I'm not sure.
Got you. Okay, thank you. The other question that we have received, there was a question of whether this would include stop loss insurance. Dan, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I will. So Arlington Public Schools does not currently have stop loss. That is something that we are currently exploring. It's not being considered as part of this RFP, but at some point during 2023, probably as we are winding down this RFP process, if we make a decision to add stop loss on, it may be considered as part of this contract. But I don't think that it will be required under the, Rebecca, I can leave it to you in HR, but I don't think that a stop loss contract will necessarily be just given to whoever is awarded the rest of the contract. The stop loss RFP would be a separate RFP and may include some standalone bidders.
I think that's correct, yes. Questions?
And we have received other questions that we're working through, but those will be issued as part of the addendum that's sent out next week.
We have not received any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining us this morning. we are accepting questions through close of business, I believe, on the 12th. Definitely through the 12th, 5 p.m. Yes, 5 p.m. Eastern time on December 12th. So questions are welcome. And we will, by the end of next week, issue an information item with the questions answered that are available, and an addendum will be forthcoming as well. Again, thank you for joining us this morning.